Welcome to the Wing Life Podcast, where we talk about wing foiling and the lifestyles of those who enjoy this great sport.
Well, first off, everybody, hope you're having a wonderful day. We appreciate you. We're so grateful to be on this show and sharing just passion and love for water sports. And hopefully throughout this time, you'll learn something. Let's dive into it today. We're going to dive into, I would say, first expectations, but also your first lesson and we're going to break it down and we're going to take you from 0 to hero, or at least 0 to 1.2. And then we'll go from there. So let's get it rolling.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining, you guys. And today is a very special day because Damien has a fresh haircut, so I think this is going to be really
stylish.
Good. Very.
Yeah, it's true. We're feeling pretty quick today, so I should be able to teach you guys quick.
Beautiful. So people heard of wing foiling. They are down and excited. Now it's time to pick their school and then go from there. All right, boys.
Yeah, I feel like, what's really cool about wing foiling is, if you want it, if you feel like you want to learn on your own, you can, and it's not too dangerous, like where kiting can go very wrong if you don't know what you are doing right away. So with kiting, always for sure, take a lesson, have somebody really experience, showing you, how it's done. But so first, wing foiling, super friendly, so you can just go out there and start practicing. But in terms of if you really wanted a lesson, that's for sure it's going to be helpful, and it's going to make your progression faster. So I think, have you guys learned on your own?
2 of us.
Oh, me? Yeah, I mean, I have a simple comment to all this. I would say highly recommend a lesson to get a little bit of information because learning on your own, totally doable. Totally, you can do it. Agree with Gwen. That's what's so special about this sport is you can learn on your own. I would say it's gotten a lot easier. The gear's gotten better. It's gotten safer. There's just so much more information out there. But I would say no matter what, you're going to benefit from talking with somebody that's knowledgeable in it, whether it's a school, whether it's somebody on the beach, whether it's anybody that's a part of it. You're going to get a lot of information, and there's a lot of information out there. But I would say, a lesson will for sure give you a lot of, I think, a really good kind of a place to start with knowledge on, especially when it comes to setting your gear up, right? That's always, I would say that's more important than the actual lesson. I feel like if you had a decent setup of gear, you can definitely learn on your own. And I'm not saying that that's a game changer.
Yeah. Also what helps with getting a lesson is knowing, having somebody that knows how the process goes, so that can set expectations for you in a way that it's going to be setting expectation that you're going to be able to achieve. When you go on your own, you just don't really know what to expect. So you have really high expectation. So as much as wing foiling, in my opinion, is very accessible. I've been teaching, so many older people, even older than 70 years old. Anybody can do it. I truly believe it. Yet you would see guys that are pro level kiting going into it and have a terrible time on their first session, for a few reasons, because their expectation is way high. Their gear is maybe not adapted. So as much as it is accessible to anybody, it can be incredibly difficult to the world champion kiting, and we've had guys on our podcast. Jesse Richman is a good example, describing his first session. He's a world-class kiter, and yet had a terrible first session. So having somebody that's gonna walk you through the process and set expectations that are achievable is just gonna make your experience better, and so you won't have to make unnecessary mistakes in your first session so that you can right away start kind of like succeeding and go step by step.
That makes sense. And especially we got 2 points here, somebody coming over with wind experience or somebody coming over with no wind experience. If you've got no wind experience at all, then I would definitely recommend hooking up with a professional who's been there for 5, 10, 15 years. And as you mentioned, Gwen, like even if you're coming over from kiting, like I learned how to foil windsurf foiling because I was a windsurfer, and I found that was super easy. But I saw some pros from Hawaii who were hopping on just directly on, and they were just learning how to foil like wing foiling. And yeah, it was super, super challenging because there's no anchor point on it. You're completely disconnected. So that's where potentially tow foiling or something else might be helpful. But so for those people who want to take a lesson, you've been given a ton. So what should they bring to their first lesson? What should they expect? Maybe where should they set their bar so they're happy at the end as well? Yeah.
So usually I provide the gear now. It happens that some people have their own gear, but I would say in my experience, most of the time people actually honestly bring the wrong gear or something that's going to make it harder for themselves. So, ideally, the school is going to provide you with the right gear. They've had tons of beginners on the setup. They know exactly that's the best setup to get you started. And so the other thing that's going to be very valuable is to have a boat safety that's going to be able to bring you out there, because the first challenge is going to be to go upwind. And if you can't go upwind, then you're always going to be starting to go a little, and then you're going to have to like come back and walk back upwind. And now your time is split 50% of like walking. That's kind of like what you would do if you were learning on your own. And that's another reason where like a lesson is very valuable, especially if you are provided with jet ski boat support, because now 100% of your time is spent riding, and that's like just in that aspect there is so much more progression that's gonna happen. But so gear ideally is provided, because you at the beginning you need a massive board, and that's also why people don't really want to buy a massive board, because yes, you might graduate pretty quickly, but in your first few sessions it's so valuable. You can really build strong skills from riding a massive board. I'm talking like 150, 170, 200 liter board. So you can understand the principle that's going to at least allow you to understand how to go upwind. And then after that, you can start, sizing down when you are, I would say, when you are ready to get up on foil, which means you for sure you can stay upwind. You are ready to size down in board size, because a 200 liter board is ideal to like learn how to go upwind, but to get up on foil is very difficult. I'm like anybody would have a hard time getting a 200 liter board up on foil. Even a pro winger, I mean, that thing has so much drag that it's actually kind of hard to fly. So then you can start making your way down in board size. But just those steps of understanding how to go upwind, I would say from there you could almost go out there and spend your time on your own. To me, how I almost would like to prefer to structure lessons is to have a first lesson, and then people go out there and apply everything we talked about, and then another lesson a few sessions later to address the rest, and kind of like step by step. I would say most people that I get after the first lesson, they can pretty much stay upwind. So that's huge step. And then I tell them like, come back to me when like you are like ready to get up on foil and you feel like you are so close and you can't get it, then let's get another lesson. So that's kind of like the process.
I'd say the key points, breaking it down really simply there is, with a lesson, you have safety, support, motivation, setting your expectations. Not to mention you got the right equipment to make the learning curve faster. When you're learning on your own, what you see a lot is people going, well, I'm going to skip the big board, but I'm going to get the right size board for me. But what's going to happen is it's just going to be a longer learning curve because you're going to really struggle in the beginning, but then you'll get it. And it's just going to be a little bit of a longer learning curve. And you see that a lot happen. And I would say those are kind of the trade-offs of learning on your own / having a little assistance in the beginning. And it's just a good thing to know.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that's important, and I didn't really quite hear the end of, I don't know, a froze for me, but what's important is just like not to compare, yourself to other riders. Everybody has like a different journey, and it can be frustrating when you look at somebody else and you are like, they got it in like a week and they are up and riding, and then not me, but there's so many like factors that go into it, that really, the main time is just focus on yourself, put in the time, and break it down step by step, and in a way that you get success along the way. If your expectation is too high and your goal is too far away, it's gonna feel like failing a lot until you get success. And so that's why, like, also, like, the lesson is there for that, so that your instructor knows your ability and is going to be able to set the correct expectation, so that along the way you get victories that you can really enjoy.
Because there's a lot of little victories in this whole process. Like, my lessons always started with a ground class. So we would go over safety, setup, all of that kind of thing. So you would end up blowing up your wing, figure out how to do that. And then we would go through how to fly your wing. And then I would want you to go through. So the basics would be flipping, and then just figuring out how to make the wing go left and right. So all that kind of stuff you're going to go through with your instructor, because it's all dependent on them. And then from there, you're starting to like, okay, I'm kind of ready. I want to go in the water now. So like you have little wins on land, and then you get into the water, and then jet ski support, massive. But then there's so many different kinds of techniques, which is what I find fascinating. Every single instructor and coach is going to teach differently. And it's all based on your individual skill set or your biomechanics or how your hips move. So there might be different tricks and things that get into play that are unique for you. And that's also the nice thing about having a coach or an instructor, is that as we're following on jet ski, we might be filming, and then we'll be able to say, hey, like, you could have moved your foot this way, or why am I scissoring, or why am I not able to do this? So it's just direct feedback, which is really, really nice. So I guess for expectations for the first one, for the most part, Gwen, you were saying most schools do provide gear. So they just have to bring booties, wetsuit, helmets are also provided, impact vests are also provided. So just make sure to have a little bit of skincare and food, and don't underestimate the amount of calories and the mental energy you expend. So make sure to bring some decent amount of food.
Yeah, that's also like, an expectation to have on on the student part, is not, expecting like, okay, I want to book 2 full days, let's go, and be 8 hours on the water. That's going to be very difficult. And it's, after like a few hours, really, to me, I prefer like 2 hours. Like, that's plenty usually. Maybe 2 hours broken into like, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. But once you start getting tired, you are not making, the right thing. So it's a process, and just like, it's a sport that you are not going to learn over a weekend. So you kind of like have to be committed and see it for, getting it for the long road, because it might, when you show up to the beach and you look at people riding and you see like older people and anybody, like, you are like, okay, this thing is like easy. They just like stand around, hold the wing, lean back, all good. And it's not, it's actually, it takes time to figure out, but we all do it because it's really fun. So yes, it's a process, but like, it's so rewarding. So don't, keep at it, and then it will come.
You know, to me, the most important thing, you know, that you remember is like the whole point of getting into this is you're learning how to wing foil. This isn't like I'm just going to be a professional wing foiler, or I'm going to be that guy that's killing it out there that I want to be. You're learning. So like, enjoy that learning process. We've said this a million times, you know, on the YouTube channel, but like, you know, you expectations, everybody wants to be good at something and you want to be right here. You don't want to go through the struggle. But I'd say the more you can actually look at the struggle and enjoy the struggle and enjoy the little teeny gains, like your whole learning process will be the most fun thing you could ever do, especially if you do it with maybe your wife, maybe your kids, maybe your, you know, your son or daughter, or just with your friends, or maybe by yourself. But you'll have so much more, I think, gratitude and so much more respect for the sport and probably longevity of it, because, you know, if you're thinking end result and then you get there and then what, right? So like, enjoy the ride, because, you know, in the end, all we have is learning in life with whatever we do. And the cool part about winging that I think is, you know, needs to be said is whether you're learning on your own or learning through a school, you have we're still learning, right? All of us. So the room for what you can do is still endless. So your learning process can be beyond, and foiling only gets better. And I say that because you have things like, you know, at first we were riding swells with wings, right? Just riding these swells. And now you can take your wing away and ride a swell for days. Well, Gwen can. I only go for like 10 seconds, but these are those things that there's so much more potential. And I'm not even saying it's not winging. I'm just saying it's another form that, you know, can open up a new learning process. So, you know, I think I learned on my own, and I would say nightmare, super hard. I didn't think this sport was going to take off.
I think it would be good to hear like tell us a bit more about like your first time out there, because it was at the beginning. So, you know, there was not much knowledge out there. You were kind of like, you know, figuring out the sport as like nobody had it figured out, you know?
Yeah, I would just say you do what everybody does it. I was a water sports athlete. I was once a world champion, and I was pretty talented. I can foil. So I took all the cool setups and I couldn't do it. And I was like, we need like a hurricane to do this. So we did have a hurricane, literally, and we went in the intercoastal and it was blowing like 40 knots and we're all kind of barely doing it. And I'm just like, there's no way this sport is going to take off. But it was because we had the race gear on. We had boards that were like potato chips. They had zero volume in them. You know, we still didn't even know how to use the wings, but we had an idea, but we didn't learn on the land. We thought we knew. And so now it's awesome because you have this knowledge that people can share in a very fast, efficient way, which I highly recommend. I would say, yes, you can learn on your own, but 100% you're going to get safety, knowledge, help, you know, expectation set, a lot of things with a lesson or even just one time, you know? But yeah, I'd say it was challenging, fun, exciting learning process. Would I want anybody to go through it? No, for sure not. I would say.
So after your first time out, you came back, it was a disaster. Were you like kind of like excited to go again, or were you like, you know, like no way, like this is dumb, like I'm not gonna do this again, and then you kind of like dropped it until later?
I kept at it, but I was like, I just don't get it. I like it's blowing 40. Like kiting is all time when it's 40. Like I was a kite surfer. I was like, why would I struggle? And I'm in the intercoastal because if the waves are too big, I'm just getting annihilated with the wing. So it's like I didn't really get it. But then what changed, I think, as time went on, is all of a sudden you could ride in nothing. So now you can still kite in those incredible conditions if you are a kite surfer out there. But winging, just the window just is massive. And it was like, well, in my time, I thought it was like that big, but now it's huge. I mean, I thought you only had to have a hurricane and you maybe could do it. And now I feel like that you can do so much in so many places and intercoastals and ocean and you name it. And that's what's making it so special and rewarding, because people are learning. It's physically good, mentally, stimulating. It's healthy. Everybody's working so hard in our world today, and there's a lot of stress, and it's a great release, like absolutely a great release. You're in the elements of Mother Nature, and I just highly recommend it. It's awesome.
What's funny is I see, in a lot of people, they get into it, their first session, first lesson, there's a lot of struggle in that. And I'm like seeing it, they are struggling, and I'm, sometime in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh dang, like they're gonna hate it. No, but I'm like, I feel like bummed, because I'm like, oh dang, like I know this point is amazing, but I feel like they are not having a good experience. And turns out they love it. Like most people struggle, and if you would look at them from the beach, you are like, this person, like they hate it, like they can't even like get to, they get to their knees and they fall, and and yet that person comes out of the water and had the best time ever. So there is something about kind of like embracing the challenge and kind of like the satisfaction that like, okay, you were in it, facing that challenge. Did you get success? Some, but you are like one step closer. And I think, you took that first step, whether that was your first session, your first lesson, you took that step, and that's like massive. I remember like my first time was like terrible. Like I literally like barely got to my feet like within like 2-3 hours or something.
Yeah,
like
tell us, Gwen.
It was like a total fight. Like just I would get to my knees and I would fall, because it was like, Damien's born, like, he's the one that taught me. And it was
I didn't teach him. I gave him the gear, so he learned on his own, people. Literally, I said, here's a board, here's a wing, go.
That's the lesson he gave me. He said, here, take my gear and you go there and you try it. Yeah. And so literally could not stay on my knees. But in looking at the footage, my Kelly, my sister-in-law, she was there. She took some videos, and looking back at that footage now, I'm like, how did I not hate it? Like it looks so like terrible. And I remember I was like so happy coming out of the water. And that was really because of like, I love a good challenge. And I was like so excited that, I took the first step, and I started the process, and I saw people out there riding, and I was like, I know I can do it. I just need to like put in the time. And now I'm just excited to put in the time. I want to go back. I want to get there as soon as possible. So, so even though there is a lot of struggle in the learning, like you still, in my opinion, most people still like really embrace the challenge and have the tons of fun out there.
I think there's two different frames of thought that you can approach this with, is either approach it through achievement or approach it through fun. And you recognize that it's going to be, because learning how to foil, windsurf foiling, my buddy did the same thing. I had a slingshot, I think it was 2018 or 2019. I started a little bit later. He said, here it is, go have fun. Like I popped up really fast, but sure enough, like I almost got my foot caught under the mast a couple times for when my sail came down and all these different things. But then when I went to try it on a 150 liter and a big foil, and like I didn't think, because I had seen the pros on YouTube and other stuff, it's like, there's no way, like this is too advanced. But when I got up moving relatively quickly, because I'd gone through that little bit of danger pain on windsurf foiling, I was so moving. Because it's like, whoa, it went from like chatter, like we're so used to kiting and windsurfing, this constant chatter. And all I remember is how quiet it was the first time I actually got up and didn't fall. And that's what hooked me in. So it's like, if you're looking at this, make sure to look at it from the experience of just enjoying, because you're going to be learning for the next 20 years. And if you're racing to a destination, you just got to learn how to let that go. Giving lessons, I found that as well. There's certain different kinds of personality types that'll hold on to the wing like death grip. So what I started learning how to do is you're only allowed 2 fingers. To learn on land, I'm only giving you 2 fingers instead of 5, and you're just going to do these little movements and that. So that's the kind of cool part about an instructor. They're going to read your personality. You're going to see what you're trying to do, and then they're going to help you have the most fun possible. Because I had one client who I was toe foiling with. I couldn't stand him up because his level wasn't there. I kept him on his knees for an hour. His quads were burnt, and he was 65 to 75. And then I was like, oh, this guy's not having fun. He's falling 15 times. He comes in and said, that was the best hour I've spent in a long time. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, this was perfect. And all I did is I kept him on his knees. I said, as soon as you can fly the foil, I'll graduate you to standing. But right now, let's just start with the basics, man. Just like look around, enjoy. And so we're in this beautiful lake in the middle of like this old growth rainforest. And here he is just kneeling and sitting. And he was like, well, this was time away from work. This allowed me to focus for myself. And then he didn't have to worry about the safety aspect because we had a boat with him and we could just tow him to shore. So learning is challenging, but I don't know, what in life isn't, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean,
it's rewarding for sure.
It's so rewarding. That's why we do it. And again, just go to the beach and talk to people doing it. The community to me is amazing. So that's a huge part of like also building kind of like your support network, finding people that are ahead of you in the process, but also maybe people that are at the same level as you, so that you go through that process with them, so you can kind of like motivate each other and then talk about your challenges that they can relate because they are facing this same challenge. Sometimes when people are like way ahead, they might not remember, or some people didn't go through the same challenges. So kind of like not only, yes, go get your first lesson, but start building your community. And that would be huge.
Yeah. And one other thing I would just tap into, which is kind of actually a shout out to Cindy, but, there's other aspects of the sport, like for instance, e-foiling can be a great way to tap into foiling in your own safe, confident way to learn that feeling. But I wanted to say this because I thought it was interesting, but we have a friend, Cindy, who wings, and she learned how to wing, went through the whole process and loves it, and it's great. And we took her for the first time e-foiling a couple weeks back, and like another euphoric, like most incredible experience of her life. And yet like she already foils, like she already does it, but it's just like that other form. And I'm not even saying it's a different form. It's just a different challenge, learning, feeling, experience. And I just would say, like, if you're listening in and you're like, oh man, I just, I have an opportunity to do this or this. I mean, there's tons of ways to get into this foiling journey. So I would say, don't necessarily count one or another out. I would say they all kind of merge to be something pretty special. So
that makes sense. And coming at this from a travel perspective, if you're looking to find a school, there's schools all over the world. There's some basic safety questions you could always ask, and you could always ask your instructors or the school to lay out what does my first lesson look like? What's going to happen? Am I going to spend half an hour on land? Am I going to get toe foiling? And then from there, once I master that, am I going to get connected to the wing? What's the insurance situation like in case I do get hurt? What kind of waivers do I have to sign? What safety gear are you providing? Just make sure to ask any questions. And obviously, there are some opportunities if you're traveling into a different country that the school might not be up to snuff. Just make sure to do a little bit of your own due diligence. But insurance and different safety questions, if they should just be forthright with that information, more than happy to give it to you, because it's about you and your safety at the end of the day. And but yeah, this was a pretty good one, fellas. Is there anything else that you want to add, or we good to wrap her up?
I just say struggle away. You're gonna enjoy it. Like it's probably like the greatest thing ever is when I know it sounds funny. I use struggle as a word that sounds rough, but it's like so awesome.
It's part of the process.
It's so good.
It never goes away.
Yeah, like never. But it's so
true.
Awesome.
That's
like
true.
it just it's a new struggle that you got to learn, whether it's a new jibe or whatever you want to get into next. It's super rewarding, puts you in a different mind state. It's great for, I think Gwen said it, very important. And that's, the community's incredibly special. If you just take any sport out there and you look at it, there's something very special about the water sports community. And it's very, I would say, family-like nobody's out to prove anything. They're happy to help and share and be a part of it. So I think you'll be pretty pleasantly surprised with how nice that is.
In closing, guys, I got a pretty good story here from last week. It was a bigger day in La Ventana. I did a 5K downwinder. I'm playing in the waves at the beach, right? And I see this big one kind of at shoulder high. It's starting to crest a bit. And I go and I get this beautiful turn on it. And I come back down and I realize I'm way too close to shore. So I have to eject over top of the wave. My board gets dragged to shore. Sure enough, and I've been doing this, 3-4 and teaching. I get dragged to shore. Like the crazy carpets, if you're in a snow country or whatever, and you can lie down on that crazy carpet and it takes you down. I actually fell on top of my wing and there was a crazy carpet up the beach. And then the shore break was too big and I was like a kilometer or 2 kilometers away from my other spot. And I was like, okay, dude, you got to get in the water somehow, which took me 15 to 20 minutes. I had to walk half a kilometer. And then I finally was able to get punched through and then work my way back up 5K. So it doesn't matter what level you are. I'm just an intermediate, but it doesn't matter what level you are. You're always going to be pushing to try different things. And yeah, just enjoy that process.
And look at you right now. You're laughing at it, loving it. It was an experience that you'll remember forever.
Well, yeah, I tried to get in 6 times. I was like, okay, I got my chance. Boom. My board gets yanked. I tested my leash. Leash didn't snap. And then the wing would fly, whatever, and I would get dragged back to shore, grab my kit, walk another 20 feet, try to get back in. Boom, another set would hit me, takes me back to shore. Luckily, nothing broke, but it was the crazy carpet thing that I laughed because my board was standing up, sliding with me. I was lying down in the canopy and just right up the beach. I was like, all right, I'm going to walk a kilometer and get back.
Wow.
It's funny stuff though. You always have things like
it.
that, but still impact vest because I was there and helmets and whatever. And you're okay.
On the moment, you don't always laugh, but then later it's funny.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Hey, thanks everybody for joining us on this one. And we'll see you in the next one.